Hey, salams everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Let's Talk About It with Sabia Kamali, a live show, unedited, unapologetic. Let's hope Councillor Rohit from Newham, who's also a senior lecturer at Loughborough University, is ready to have. Hi, Rohit.
Hi, Sabia. Thank you for having me on the program.
No, it's a great pleasure. We've been meaning to meet up for a
Yeah,
long time, so I'm
yeah.
glad we finally did.
This was supposed to be a coffee, which is now becoming more, so I'm really excited.
Great. So you're a lecturer at a university, but you're also a counsellor. How and why did you become a counsellor?
Yeah, so I'm a senior lecturer at Loughborough University, and I became a counsellor in May 2018
Yeah.
for Newham. To be honest, I actually see that the work that I do as a academic and the work that I do as a counsellor quite similar
Yeah.
because it's about helping people. It's about taking a very critical look at the things around us.
Yeah.
I've been living in Newham for over 5 years now, and actually, when I moved over here, there were certain things that the way in which the council was working and the way things were not happening, and the kind of apathy I was feeling on some levels, quite hard to take. And I remember I spoke to a lot of people, and they were like, it's no good just complaining, complaining,
Yeah.
complaining. Why don't you just join politics and do something? And I never really thought about that, to be honest.
Okay.
I was one of those Labour Party members who I've been a member for almost 10 years, more than 10 years now. And I was just happy to pay my subs, and that was it. And so
Did your little
the
bit.
idea of actually
Yeah.
coming into more full-time politics never happened. And what happened before this was in 2017, I stood as a general election candidate in East Hampshire. And the reason for that, again, was because I was working at that time at the Winchester School of Art. And on the day of the referendum, I was racially abused by a few people on the road over there and then back on the train coming back to
Yeah.
London. And so when the 2017 general election was called up, it was about, there was this kind of rhetoric about taking the country back. And I really wanted to stand for Hampshire, where this happened to me, and say,
Yeah.
actually, this is as much my country as it is yours. And
course.
that kind of really opened up the journey for me in party politics, which I'd never been involved in before that time.
So you have been actively campaigning on many different issues, including the current situation in India with this new Amendment Act, which can potentially leave 1.9 million people becoming stateless if they can't prove their lineage. What is the reason behind the amendment, and what does that mean to local people?
Sure. It's actually more than 1.9, but I'll explain that. So, what happened was there is the National Register of Citizens, which is a register of all Indian citizens, was first put into action in this border state of Assam. And when it was put into work in Assam, the idea was that it would kind of take away all the illegal citizens out of there. So out of 33 million people who live in Assam, 31 million were on the register and 1.9 million people were left out of it. Now, what the government thought was that most of these people would be Muslims.
Yeah.
And then they realized actually there aren't, because there are lots of people like me who are Hindus, whose grandparents migrated from Bangladesh back in the day, who suddenly saw that they weren't on the National Register of Citizens anymore. So their plan kind of backfired. So as a get-out clause, what they did was then come up with the Citizens Amendment Act, the CAA. And the idea for the CAA was that anyone who is of Hindu, Sikh, Parsi, Christian, Buddhist religion, who was escaping from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from Afghanistan, I think there was also a list of other countries, they could automatically, before 2014, could automatically become citizens of India. Strangely enough, Muslims were not part of them because, it's all apparently very good up there for Muslims. This is the thing, I just don't get it. And so,
When you say apparently good up there, what do you mean?
well, this idea that that when anyone is causing atrocities, that they're causing atrocities only on certain religions. People in power do not look at people based on their religion. People in power is going to be putting everyone into difficulties, and we stand with whether they are Muslims, Sikhs, or Hindu brothers who are all facing all kinds of issues all across the world. And so when the CAA was put into action, and only last month on 19th of December, and the passage through Rajya Sabha was when protests broke out across the country, and rightly so, because we are a country that has been formed as a secular country. The whole idea about India was that this would be a place for people of any religion to feel at home. Those are the ethos of
Yeah, I think this is the first time that India has gone against its own constitution, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is the first time that citizenship is being decided on the basis of one's religion.
Yeah.
And I think that sends out a very dangerous message. Interestingly enough, I was reading on Twitter the other day from Mamata Banerjee, who's a chief minister for West Bengal, saying that everything that is happening right now, the prime minister is saying, but in Pakistan they're doing this, but in Pakistan they're doing this.
Yeah.
Well, that's all great, whatever they're doing in Pakistan. We don't have to do what they're doing in Pakistan.
Of course.
And Mamata Banerjee said, you're no longer the Prime Minister of India, you're becoming like the ambassador for Pakistan. And I thought that was amazing, because that's exactly what's happening.
I mean, unfortunately, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the ideology that Modi's government has been sort of promoting is divide and promote violence, and it's become a threat to not only Muslim but a very circular fabric of India as well, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Sabia, I was born in a pretty non-religious family in some ways. My parents were the people who were voting for the Communist Party of India, Marxists. We did have a shrine in our home, but for me, Hinduism was more about a cultural thing. Going out for Durga Puja, meeting friends, not the kind who was going to be praying 5 times a day in the temple. It was just not something I did, and I never actually thought that part of my Hinduism was part of my identity until now.
Yeah.
Because what Modi has done and what his party has done is to try and say there is this version of Hinduism, the Hindutva version, the Hindu nationalist version of Hinduism. And we are saying that no, there isn't. There are multiples of different kinds of Hinduism. Whether you are in northern India, whether you're in southern India, whether you're in western India, eastern India, we all are performing and kind of living Hindu lives in many different ways. And what he is saying is not the only form of Hinduism that exists. There is a very secular form of Hinduism that exists. And what this government has been doing over and over again is they do not like experts. They do not like young people. Why is it that they are only going out there and attacking secular people? Why is it that they're only going out there and attacking the universities?
I guess they don't want to be challenged.
They don't want to be challenged.
I mean, how do you think one should perceive the current government at the moment? Like you said, Modi wants his version of being religious. Obviously, a religion is a personal thing for a lot of people, and they have different way of worshipping or different way of expressing how they are. But he has his own way. So with all this, being in power, being in a certain position, and him imposing his view, how do you think the world should view the government in India?
My big issue is that I find that the Western media has been very muted in their condemnation of Modi and of the Indian government. I don't know what is it that they're scared of, because we should be calling out injustice wherever it is. And it shouldn't be based on just who is our friends or not. But let me just give you an example. When you were talking about the version of Hinduism, so in West Bengal, we are quite matriarchal in the sense that the 2 biggest gods that we celebrate is Ma Durga and Kali. And in my last 20 years, growing up in India, that's all I had seen. For the first time, I saw kind of imported from northern India, people were starting to shout Jai Shri Ram. I've got nothing against it, but I do see that as trying to impose a version of Hinduism over other versions of Hinduism. We've got Vaishnavas who've been living in West Bengal for years and years and years. That is a legitimate form of Hinduism. Worshipping the mother goddess is a legitimate form of Hinduism. But what we are seeing is this really, really backward and very kind of a worrying form of imposition that is happening. For me, the question as a secular is, I believe that everyone should be allowed to celebrate and perform their religion as they want to. We shouldn't be imposing anything on anyone.
Which direction do you think Modi is leading India towards?
Very, very dangerous direction. The social fabric of the country has broken. We are seeing young people being beaten up. A couple of days ago, just before I came back from India, I saw friends and colleagues who were beaten up for just shouting out, one word from the crowd. It is a very, very dangerous direction that he's taking the country down. And this idea that about Modi being the uplifter of the working class, of bringing in development to India and economic growth, has all been proven untrue. And I think this is the big thing that, the reason why a lot of people said that, oh, we need Modi because he's going to do this. He has not performed on any of those issues.
Yeah.
And even yesterday, I remember watching this video where Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was the last BJP prime minister, his own niece saying that this wasn't the BJP party that she was a member of and was a worker for 32 years. So even people within the BJP are now saying that this is a very different kind of a party.
So what makes people vote for people like Modi?
I wish I knew. I honestly wish I knew. I think the biggest shock for me, and we all live in liberal bubbles, the biggest shock for me was in the last general election in India, where in a place like West Bengal,
Yeah.
Which has had no BJP representation, suddenly electing, I think was it 30 or something MPs, and I was
Shocking.
absolutely shocked that
Yeah.
happened.
So the recent attack on 5th of January by a mass mob composed of Hindu extremism armed with rods and sticks to attack the campus of JNU in Delhi injured more than 40 students and teachers. The attack was described as an attempt to suppress student activism during the Citizen Amendment Act protest, which has triggered a massive protest nationwide, including here in the UK. Many are demonstrating on the streets, others are raising their voice against the violence on the internet. How do you think this will help or make a difference in situation in India?
I mean, like I said, Sabia, what the Indian government is doing is that they're attacking universities. First it was Jamia Millia Islamia,
Yeah.
Aligarh Muslim University, Jadavpur University, and now we've got JNU. Their big problem with all of these universities are that you have got students and young people who think critically, who are not just going to be doing what the government does. What this government has done very well is they've started putting in all of these universities vice chancellors and people who believe in their ideology in different places, which means that they're trying to change the very fabric of what some of these universities stand for. A place like JNU, for example, has always been kind of a space of dissent. Doesn't matter if that dissent was, this is the same JNU which dissented against Indira Gandhi and during the Congress emergency. This was the same JNU where people have dissented against the Congress's party as well. This is not about being anti-BJP. And what the government does not understand is, as citizens, people have the right to dissent. People have the right to question their leaders. But if the leaders start using force on its own citizen, you have no mandate to be the government. These are the people who have elected you. And you actually don't just stand for the people who've elected you, but you stand for people for the entire country. You are not just the voice for the BJP as a government, you are the voice for the entire country. And this is what Modi and his government has really, really shaken the very foundations of democracy in India. Places like JNU, places like Jadavpur, places like Aligarh, places like Jamia, places like Hyderabad University have been these absolutely bastions of student dissent, liberalism, and so on. And we must absolutely fight to keep them like that. I saw the video of Aisha Ghosh, who's the JNU Student Union president, who was mercilessly beaten up, this woman. There are pictures of her, her entire forehead burst open, gashing with blood over there. I have heard reports of students, Muslim students in JNU, who locked inside in their hostels, hiding under the bed. A blind student who was being mercilessly beaten up until he was screaming out, I'm blind, and someone had to say, oh yeah, he is blind, let him go. This is what it has all led down to in Jadavpur University, where I did my undergrad. They burnt down JNU, the ABVP. They burnt down one of the gates. So if this is what they're doing, if they're going to be attacking our young people, they are not going to be quiet either, and they will remember. They will absolutely remember what's happening to them. And today in India, we've got one of the biggest strike action that the country has seen. 250 million people will be bringing the country to a halt. 10 trade unions have called for this strike. It's one of the biggest strikes that the country has seen. And it is time, that we do stand for what we are. And I hate it when people look at us and say, oh, you're anti-national, da 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 da. We're not anti-national. Actually, I really, really love India. I really, really love India. People like my grandfather gave their lives for an independent India.
Yes.
And the reason that we critique this government is because we love India and we want that old India back.
I mean, obviously, Modi being in power, being like the government belonging to him, and which means automatically the police are on this side. I think on the 19th of December, they had police banning protests in certain area. So how is this going to go down? I mean, unfortunately, countries like India, police have physical powers where
Absolutely.
they could attack people.
I mean, protesting in India is literally a matter of life and death
Yes.
for many, many people. We have heard numerous accounts of young people being disappeared. We've heard numerous accounts of young people being killed. The attack in JNU, and again, I can go by what some of the eyewitness statements there were, that the police stood by mutely, allowing them to go inside the university campus and cause a rampage. Then they turned off the lights to allow them to even escape from the campus. If these are the people who are meant to safeguard us, then where does it lead? And the one point I think it should be made, and people keep talking about this, like, oh, these are hooligans, these are, and I'm like, hold on, Modi's power base and BJP's power base doesn't come from the so-called, lumpen proletariats. It comes very much also from the middle classes and the well-educated and the well-resourced, who are people who are sitting over here in the UK and people who are sitting over there in the US. And I think we do need to understand that this is very much also a fight against the kind of capitalism that Modi wants to bring into India, which we are resisting. The JNU fees hike, which happened a couple of months ago, was a part of this. The reason why we have government universities, I went to Jadavpur University for my undergrad. I paid 50 rupees a year, which is less than a pound.
Yeah.
This is what government universities are meant for. It is meant, and whilst I had the money, who could go there. Some of my classmates were coming from Medinipur and some of these very, very little villages who were probably making 50 rupees. Their parents were making 50 rupees a month, right?
Yeah.
So this is what university is about. It is about social mobility. It is about giving everyone a chance, irrespective of where you come from. And that is why the idea of the fee hike in JNU and fee hike across other universities is about taking that away, that opportunities away from people.
Moving slightly away from that, I think for many of our viewers abroad, when they think of India, they think of Bollywood. And I think this is one election a lot of Bollywood people have been tweeting. I mean, I had one from Aliabad tweeting saying, once students and teachers become victims of physical assault on an ongoing basis, it's time to stop and pretend that it's fine. The one that was kind of baffling was Twinkle Khanna's tweet. India is where cows seem to have more protection than students, and at the same time she was criticized that her husband Akshay Kumar, who's a very big Bollywood star, who is paid to basically do propaganda for ABVP. And so obviously from that we gathered, even with it's such a big thing that even Bollywood is picking up and not tweeting, because obviously generally they stay out, like Priyanka Chopra. She's not even commenting, or she's sort of like, it doesn't
or
exist.
any of the men.
Yeah.
None of the male actors have said a word. And as I said, I think I tweeted out that the women in Bollywood have a spine, unlike their male counterparts. And I'm really 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 glad that people like Dia Mirza, people like Konkona Sen Sharma, people like Aparna Sen, people like Deepika Padukone, Alia Bhatt, as you mentioned, and others, Sonam Kapoor, have all actually spoken out against this, rightly so,
Yeah.
because whether we like it or not, Bollywood does have a huge star presence.
Of course.
And I'm thinking of Rachel Dwyer's work over here about most people in India, they don't learn their history from textbooks.
No, they
learn
don't.
their history from watching Bollywood films. Of
course.
And that this is the kind of cultural power they have. So when Deepika Padukone went and stood with the students in JNU yesterday,
Yeah.
today Indian Twitter is in meltdown. People are putting rape threats against her. People are talking about misogyny. People are talking about boycotting her films. This is the kind of bullying that they're doing. And I'm really, really glad that we've got people like them who are standing up, and at the same time, absolutely shameful that you have got male actors who have not said a word about the kind of things that's happening in India right now. And I just think our stars need to do better, or maybe we need to have different kinds of stars.
Or maybe we should have different kind of role models, because
Yeah.
obviously people look towards them as like some kind of role model, people that they see inside the showbiz. They think that's the real them, but I think people tend to forget they get paid to behave in a certain way, and that's why they do certain things. If you look at the situation in India, it comes across as these protests has become some kind of national threat. However, the difference is this is being created by the Modi government. In your understanding of this situation, do you think or do you feel like it is a national threat?
It is a national crisis. It is a definitely national crisis. I have never seen things so bad. I just came back from Calcutta a couple of days ago, and what I saw there was a very rising sense of something being terribly, terribly wrong. A lot of people are really frenzied because they're seeing some of the media propaganda that's being pushed out. But what really heartens me is that actually 56% of the state governments have now come out against the CAA. They've come out against the NRC, and they're saying, in Bengal, we have now come up with the slogan of "Paper Dakabo na." We won't show you papers because that's what you want. In a poverty-stricken country like India, and I'm sure it's the same in other South Asian countries as well. How many people have documents? You tell me. How many people have documents that they can prove that their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers, where they were born, where they lived? We don't have those kinds of things. How do they even expect? So what it means is those people with money, those people who can bribe a few people to get those papers will be able to do it. And it's the others who will not be able to prove that they are citizens. And this is not the country that our forefathers fought for.
Any last thoughts of the situation in India, and how do you think public can help in what way? I mean, because none of us are in India at the moment. What can we do to help?
I think it's really, really important that we speak out. Because this is not an issue that is about one religion, but it is about all religions. And I think it is extremely, extremely important that we all stand in solidarity. And we really, really need to question the muteness of Western media and why they are not being more vocal about some of the issues that's happening. But at the same time, I think any lobbying power that you have over here in the UK with your MP, get them to write to the Foreign Secretary, Preeti Patel, and ask what is happening in India, why is it happening, and given that they are going to be future trading partners, what is the UK government going to be doing about it?
Okay, lastly, before you go, with the being a Labour councillor that you are, and with upcoming Labour leadership, are you going to give us an indication on who you're supporting and why?
I've been very open about it, actually.
Okay.
I am going to be supporting Lisa Nandi.
Is there any reason?
Yes, I think she is a fantastic candidate. I think some of her policy positions really, really is very progressive.
Which ones? Like that attracts
So
you?
many, I think she is socially very progressive. I think she has the right ideas about winning back power, about bringing the party together. She has spoken about the fact that we do need to look beyond the big cities. We do need to think about our towns. And this is going to show biasness. And she is a fantastic BAME candidate. We should be supporting more BAME women, and I will be completely supporting these. She will get my first preference vote. I haven't yet decided who will get my second and third, but it is going to be a woman. I do want a woman to lead us. It is ridiculous that in 100 of years we have not had a woman leading this party. And the good thing is that we have some really good left women who put themselves forward. So I'm going to be putting my support behind Lisa Nandi.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a great pleasure having this discussion after so long, and I really hope you well with your councillor stuff that you do here in UK, and also your campaigning and everything that you do. It's fantastic. Is there anything that you would like to plug out to our viewers about your council work or anything for free?
No, thank you so much, Sabia, for giving me this platform to speak about some of the issues that's happening in India. For many diasporic people like us, we do have legs in two countries, and when I see the kind of right-wing growth of right-wing fascism that's happening across the Western world, but also happening in India, I see them all as being connected. So as socialists, we are not just fighting for socialism in the UK, but we are fighting for socialism globally. And I think all our fights, therefore, are very, very much connected. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, that's all we had time for today. That was Councillor Rohit from Newham, a very, very active councillor and an active campaigner. And so if you can help, feel free, lobby your MP, right, to encourage everyone to get involved, because the attack on India is a great attack. And if you would like to campaign about any issue, or you would like to raise a voice or any kind of concern, do get in touch and let us know. Take care for now.